Hello, welcome to this video. Today I'm going to be covering the quadratic formula plus the standard form for a quadratic equation. As you can see here, I have the quadratic formula right here. It is x equals to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Or everything that I said except the x and equals over 2a. So I will be also be covering the standard form of a quadratic equation, and I have it right here. It is this one right here. The ax squared plus bx plus c equals to 0. So as you can see, the x squared and is followed by the bx. So you see how the exponent, the power of the exponent decreases when it's going to the right side, and then everything equals to 0. So with that said, we're going to have a number, or probably no numbers, and then an x squared, and then plus a number, no number, plus b x, and then plus a constant or a number that has no variable, and all that will equal to 0. Let's go with the first one. Okay, so this is the first problem. It is 2x squared minus 2x equals to 24. So this is just an expression, and we are going to add equal to 0 to make it an equation, because an equation has to have the equal. Equation equal. So there it is. Let's start with this. So the first step of using the quadratic formula, the first step that you should do with your equation is just check if your equation is in the standard form, and that everything equals to 0, that there's no numbers, that there are no numbers that are on the other side of the equal, and stuff like that. So, and then find the value. So we can see that this one has is like the standard form, which is 8x squared plus bx plus c equals to 0. So we can see that this one is already in that order. We see the x squared, then the x, and then a constant, a number without a variable. The negatives, it doesn't matter as long as the first one, as long as a is not negative. If it's not negative, it always has to be negative. I mean positive. A has to be positive all the time in order for this to work. So, or that is in standard form. So the second step is just to find the values of A, B, and C. And it's pretty easy once you have your formula like this, because you want to put your formula in standard form in order to find the value. So the value of A is going to be the value with the x squared. The value of B is going to be the value of that is with the x, and the value of C is going to be just a constant. So here A will equal to 2. Let's put them in blue. 2. B, since over here is plus bx, and here is a negative, I'm just going to be using the negative 2. So it's going to be just a negative 2. Just keep in mind that if there's a negative, just add the negative, and then the constant, which will be negative 24. And that's how you get your values. And then it is time to start inputting them into the equation. So here we can see that. Let's start inputting them. I'm gonna just guide myself with this little equation that I have here. So I'm just gonna start like this. X equals to a negative b, which is a negative 2. I'm just evaluating. I'm just inputting the values in there. Plus or minus, the plus or minus, never forget the plus or minus, the square root of b squared, so b again, which is a negative 2, and it's going to be squared minus a 4 that is already given in the equation. Then we're going to use times a, which is 2, and then times c, which is negative 24. Then all of this over 2a. The 2 is already given in the equation, and a equals to 2. So let's start working on it. I know it looks intimidating, but it's really not. It's pretty easy. You just have to know where to do the math and where not to, and you'll see that it's pretty easy. So we're going to continue. Let's do just right below this, x equals to, well, here we see that negative times a negative is going to become a positive. So imagine that you have a 1 there. So negative times a negative 1 times a negative 2 will equal to just a positive 2. And then you're going to do plus or minus the square root. And then here we see negative 2 squared. So this is a negative number. And here it is asking us to get this number and multiply it by itself. So we're going to do negative 2 times negative 2, and that is going to give us a positive 4. So it's going to be just a 4 minus, here you can start working in the parentheses instead of just getting this, okay? So this is just the parentheses that I forgot to put. So here, let's just do 24, or negative 24 times 2, that is 48. So I just multiply these two. And then, since there's a 4 here, and it's close with a number, or with a parentheses, or with a variable, we can multiply it. So we're going to multiply it by 4. 4 times 8 is 32. And 3. 16. 4 times 4 is 16. Then plus 3 is 19. That's going to be 192. So here we have a positive. Oh, I forgot to tell you that it's a negative 4, because since it's with the negative, that's going to be a negative 4. So the negative 48 times the negative 4 is going to give you a positive. So here the sign will change from a negative to a positive, and that's going to be plus 192. And then we're going to do all over 2a, which is just 2 times 2, which is 4. We're almost done. So here what we should do is just work with what is inside the square root just to simplify. We need to simplify as much as we can. So here, let's just go again with x is equal to 2 plus or minus the square root of 4 plus 192 is 196. And then over 4. And then again, x is equal to, what is the square root of 196? If you don't know this, the square root of 196 equals to 14. This is pretty easy because it's one of the perfect squares, and I would recommend you to learn them. They're gonna help you a lot. So what I mean by perfect square is just a number that if it's multiplied by itself, that's gonna give you well, the perfect square, the 196. So if you get the square root of 196, it's going to give you 14. If you multiply 14 times itself, it's going to give you 196. So let's bring everything down to plus or minus the square root of 196, which is 14, all over 4. And let's just simplify as much as we can. X equal here. There's an extra step that you can do that is super easy. Just separate both the 4, just do this. Since you're dividing by 4 everything, just do 2 divided by 4 plus or minus 14 divided by 4. You're just moving the 4 into just like that. And then with this, you can do it one more time. You can simplify a little more. Then here I'm going to simplify by 2 because that's the most I can simplify by. So this is actually equal to 1/2 plus or minus 14 divided by 4. You cannot divide this, but you can simplify it also by 2, which is going to be 7 over 4 over 2. I'm just dividing every single number by 2, every single number, like. And now that it's simplified, there's a plus or minus. So the plus or minus just tells you that the solution is going to be 1/2 plus 7 over 2, and then or 1/2 minus 7 over 2. So you can see it. It's going to be right here, which is going to be 1/2 plus 7 over 2, comma, not comma, obviously. So comma, and then 1/2 minus 7 over 2. And these are your solutions, and you're done. You're completely done. You simplified everything. If you would like, you could add the fractions, or you can just input them in a calculator, a scientific calculator, just like that. That'll give you a number, and then you can even graph the initial equation in order to try them out. And you'll see that the solutions are in the graph. The solutions are the points where the graph touches the x-axis. So if you graph it on a scientific calculator, just look at these 2 points and you'll see that those are gonna be the answers. Those are your roots, your zeros, your x-intercepts, and you're basically done with this one. Let's move on with the second problem that we have here. So this is x squared plus 10x plus 16x. So the first step is just check if it is in standard form. So we see that the x squared is here, the x is right here. So x squared is here, x is, and then the constant. So here we can see just ax squared plus bx squared plus c equal to 0. We see that there's that is very similar. We see that the order is the same. In case that you don't have a number in the a, it's just a 1. So just if you don't have a number there with a variable, it's probably, it's going to be 1. So now that we have checked that it is in order, we're going to find the values of a, b, and c. So in the other problem, we said that it was pretty easy to find the values of the a, b, and c because they're already given for you if the equation is in this order. So let's do this. So the value of a is going to be 1 because there's no other number here. The value of b is the number with the x without the squared, so it's going to be 10. The value of c is going to be 16, and you're good to start. Let's input everything into the formula. If you don't remember it, it is x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. There's actually a song that my teacher taught my class, I mean, just to learn it, it's just x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Just like that, and we learned it. We were singing it in the class, and we just learned it. So, x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Let's just start. Let's start inputting values. So x equals to, let's do negative b. Let's choose another color for this problem. So it's going to be a negative that is given in the formula, and then b, which is a value of 10, then plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is 10 again, but squared, minus the 4 that is given in the formula, times a, which is 1, times 16. Okay, so all of that over 2 that is already given in the formula right here, and then times a, which is just 1. Okay, so let's start working on it, shall we? X is equal to a negative 10 plus or minus the square root of 100, because we know that 10 squared, or 10 multiplied by itself, so 10 times 10 equals to 100, minus 16 times 1 is just 16, times 4 is just 16 times 4. 4 is going to be 24, and 2, 4 times 1 is 6, just 64, minus 64. And then all that over 2 times 1, which is 2. And now it's time just to simplify. So let's just do this, that is right here. So we know 100, we want to do whatever is inside the square root just to get it over with. So the square root of 100 minus 6, I'm just going to subtract from 100, 100 minus the 64. Okay, so this one's going to be a 10, it's going to be a 9, so it's going to be a 6, and this is going to be just a 3, and that's it, you're 36. 36 is what you need, so x will equal to, I forgot about the color, negative 10 plus or minus the square root of 36 over, all over just 2. And we know that the square root of 36, if you remember the perfect squares, 6 times 6 is 36, so the square root, so if 6 times 6 equals to 36, the square root of 36 is just 6. I don't know if I make myself clear, but so if the square root of 6 times the square root of 6 gives us the square root of 36, we know that the square root of 36 is going to be just 6. The square root is just a number that if, well, a perfect square is a number that if it's multiplied by itself, again, it equals to a number. For example, here the 36. Let's just keep on doing this. If not, we're gonna get lost talking about perfect squares and square roots. So here is gonna be x is equal to negative 10 plus or minus 6, because the square root of 36 is 6, over 2. And here I'm gonna do the extra step about separating the two. So it's gonna be negative 10 over 2 plus or minus 6 over 2. And now I'm going to simplify this a little more. It is going to be x is equal to negative negative 10. Oh, well, here we can do 10 divided by 2, which is going to be just a negative 5, plus or minus 6 over 2, which is going to be 6 over 2 is just a 3. Nope, just a 3. And with this, we know that our solutions are x is equal to, let's choose pink for the answers, negative 5 plus 3, comma, negative 5 minus 3. And here, if you want to do it one more time, just to make sure you can even simplify a little more in this one, it's going to be x is equal, negative 5 plus 3 will absolutely give you a negative 2, comma, a negative 5 and a negative 3 is going to give you a negative 8. And what this means is that in your graph, you'll see that at negative 2 and at negative 8, they're going to touch there. I don't know where this is, but I know where the solutions are. And I know they're over here, negative 2 and negative 8. And that is just where you would find them. Okay, so this is the third problem that we are going to cover today. It is x squared minus 13x equals to negative 42. Okay, so here, the first step in order to get the solutions or use a quadratic equation on this equation, we are going to check if this equation is in standard form or a x squared plus bx plus c equal to 0. So here we see that it is not like that. Here we see that the constant or the number without a variable is just on the other side. So it's right here. So let's just move things around. Let's just move the 42 into the other side so we can just continue with the working on this problem. Okay, so now we're just going to just manipulate the formula, or just organize the formula just as you would with other things. Just in order to move this to the other side, you just have to do inverse operation, which is just the opposite of what is happening there. So here, since they're subtracting, or it's a minus 42, you're just gonna add 42 to both sides plus 42. So it is going to end up being x equals not x equals, sorry. It is going to end up being x squared minus 13x plus 42. And just like this, we're going to see that the formula is already in standard form. And then equal to 0, just to make it an equation. So now the second step is just finding the values of a, b, and c. So the value of a, remember that is the one with the x squared. So since there's nothing here, it is just a 1. The value of a is 1. The value of b is going to be negative 13, because it's the number with the x. and there's a negative there. And the value of c is going to be just 42. Now let's, if you don't remember the formula, it is right. Let me write it here for you. So it is x equals to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So let's, basing ourselves off of that, let's just start inputting the values. So here we're going to start with x squared to negative b. So a negative that is given in the formula. And then there's 13 right there, negative 13. And with this, let's just continue. Then plus or minus the square root of b squared. So a negative 13, just like this, squared minus the 4 that is given in the formula times a, which is just a 1, times c, which is 42. And just like that, all over 2 times a, which is a 2, times a 1 again. So let's start working on it. Let's start simplifying everything as much as possible. So x will equal to a negative times a negative is a positive. So imagine that there's a negative 1 right here. So negative 1 times negative 13 is going to be just a positive 13. So this is going to be a 13 plus or minus the square root of of 13 squared, negative 13 squared. And if you remember, if you know your perfect squares, you know that 13 times 13 equals to 169. Or if you get the square root of 169, it's going to give you just 13, just like that. So let's just put this. So you're probably just wondering, why did I put here at 13? That's how it is. Here's a negative, and it's a negative 13 times a negative 13. A negative times a negative equals to a positive, and 13 times 13 is just 169, minus the 4 that is already given in the formula, times 1, times 42. So now we just simplify. Okay, well, let's just put the 2 times 1. I just like to work on this real quickly, and then I'll just add that, but since I'm showing, I'm just going to show you here. So here I would just multiply. I have it 42 times 1 is just 42, and 42 times 4, just 4 times 2 is 8, 4 times 4 is just 16, what's 168. So here is going to be x is equal to 13 plus or minus the square root of 169 minus 168 all over just 2, right? Because 2 times 1 is just 2. So again, x will be equal to just a 13 plus or minus the square root of 169 minus 168 is just the square root of 1. 169 minus 168 is just 1. And then this over 2. And if you remember what a perfect square is, or what the square root of 1 is, the square root of 1 is just 1, because if you multiply 1 times 1, or 1 by itself, it is going to give you 1. So here it'll be, oh, let's go back, there it is, 13 plus or minus 1 over 2, and let's just do the extra step, which is just doing, let's just move to this side, x is equal to 13 over 2 plus or minus 1 over 2. Okay, and now that we have this, when we should look at this and say, can we at least simplify a little more? You should ask that, and if you can't, just move on to this. So x will be equal to 13 over 2 plus or minus, yeah, plus 1/2 and 13 over 2 minus 1 over 2. And these are your solutions right here. Okay, so this is the fourth problem and last problem. And here, as we already know, we're going to see if the equation is in standard form. And standard form again is ax squared plus bx equal to c. Not equal to c. Plus c equal to 0. Plus c equal to 0. So here we see that it just doesn't look like that. And since we want a to be positive, just for the sake of everything to be like good, let's just move just this thing, this number with the variable into the other side. So just like that, let's just, since we're subtracting here, or it's a -6, I'm just gonna add 6x squared to both sides plus 6x squared. And the new problem will be 6x squared minus x minus 40. Okay, so here we see that the equation already looks like this. There's a number and it's positive, so it's ax squared minus x, and this would be a 1 plus c, or -40, and this would equal to 0. And here we see that they're already similar, pretty similar, more than before. So here, let's already move on to the next step, which is look for the values of a, b, and c. So the value of a, b, and c are already here, so we know that a is equal to 6, or the number with the x squared. B is just the number with the x, which is just a -1. And c is a -40. And with this, if you don't remember the quadratic formula, it is x is equal to -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So let's start just inputting them like that. Just x is equal to, let's do pink. Okay, so negative b, it's a negative given in the equation, in the formula, sorry. A b, which is a -1, plus or minus the square root of b again, so a -1, but squared, minus 4, which is given in the formula, times a, which is a 6, times c, which is -40, all over 2a, which is a 6. So just like this, let's just continue. So x, let's just simplify everything. Negative times a -1 times a -1 is just a 1, plus or minus the square root of -1 squared is just equals a -1 times -1, a negative times a negative, so -1 times -1 equals to just a 1, because negative times a negative is a positive, and 1 times 1 is just equal to 1. So it's going to be a 1 minus, let's just work on the parentheses first, just following PEMDAS. So 40 times 6, that is 240, I think. I mean, well, yeah, 240. And if not, you can just verify. 0 and 24. Yep. So it was a positive 6 and a negative 40. That's going to be a negative 240. But then you're going to multiply the 240 by the 4. So times 4. So 4 is going to be 0. 4 times 4 is 16. And you're left with 1. And then 4 times 2 is 8 plus 1 is 9. So 960. It's going to be minus, well, since this is a negative 4 again, because of the 4, it's going to be a positive. I'm just going to switch the sign. 960. And just like this, all over to, 2 times 6, which is just 12. Then again, x is equal to 1 plus or minus the square root of 960 plus 1 is going to be 961 over 12. X is equal to the square root of 961 equals to 31, if I'm not mistaken. 31 times 31. 1 times 1 is just 1. 1 times 3. And then 3 times 1, it's just 3. And 3 times 3 is 9. So 1, 6, 9. Yes, it is. So we're just going to do 1 plus or minus 31 over 12. And here, let's just do x is equal to 1 plus or minus, 1 over 12 plus or minus 31 over 12. Or if you want to do the extra step, which you will have to do most likely to get your answers, it is going to be x is equal to 1/12 or 1 over 12 plus 31 over 12 and 1 over 12 minus 31 over 12. So, and these, if you add them or subtract them just like this, you're going to get your solutions, your roots, your x-intercepts, and that is it.